And I will turn it over to Preeti to give us a legislative update.
Thank you very much, Council President Pro Tem Prince and council members. I'm excited to share with you the legislative update. But before that, since I got the little window of time for the Seahawks, I hope you've seen the new sign down at the lobby level. We have updated it, acknowledging their Super Bowl championship. So we're very excited. And today, Mayor Law was also interviewed by Channel 13, Q13 Fox, just to, further congratulate the team. So with that, I'll move to our legislative update. We are now, completed week 3 of a session. Last week, Council Member Prince, Jay Covington, Doug Levy, and myself were in Olympia. We were there for 2 days, 1 day back-to-back meetings with all our legislators to emphasize our priorities, and 1 day to work in connection with the Association of Washington Cities. They had their legislative conference where, we were supporting or working together with the other cities on several bills. So, special thanks to Councilmember Prince for being there with us and, really emphasizing our priorities. I wish I could start by saying that the bipartisan, party differences in Olympia are a thing of the past. Unfortunately, they continue. There has been one bill that they have passed on a bipartisan basis, which is really good for everyone in the community. It's the DREAM Act, which basically allows kids, college students who are, undocumented to have the eligibility to apply for, college loans. So from that standpoint, this was, one remarkable bill that was passed and very early in the legislature. But coming straight to Renton's priorities, as you know, we've been, really emphasizing the importance of transportation and that they need to pass a comprehensive transportation package. And we had heard that last Friday Senator King was going to come up with a package. It has not happened. It has now been moved to next week. Simultaneously, there was a proposal to look at sales tax from transportation projects and to use that as part of the revenue. Again, while there was the members of the Senate were supporting this, this was clearly not something that was favored by the House Democrats. So, we still don't have the ability to say we're getting closer to a package. Interestingly, the governor on Wednesday at his address to AWC was very optimistic, continued to be optimistic. The thinking right now is that there might be a special session, later in the year to see if we get somewhere with transportation. But anyway, we've got Doug there talking on a daily basis with, definitely Representative Cliburn and all the others who are involved, and really wanting to make a case for this is very, very critical. And, we didn't even have to say the words out of our mouth. Our legislators got it. They know how important it is for the region and for Renton to, to be really strong in transportation. Going forward, some of the other areas of emphasis that we had was to get our share of the liquor revolving fund back. Our legislative agenda actually talks about the liquor excise tax as well as the revolving fund. The revolving fund is what was the previous liquor profit, and this time they had put a cap on that, and so we were hoping that we could make a really strong case. AWC is very strong in this position to ask for the liquor funds to come back to us, because on a long-term basis, if you look at 4 bienniums, the impact to Renton is $1.37 million. And all the revenues that we get from liquor taxes goes directly to public safety, to law enforcement, to really take care of the issue. But unfortunately, this is also facing tough hurdles. Again, our legislators completely understood why this was important. But in the grand scheme of things, when they're balancing between, the McCleary K-12 education funding and looking at ways where they are letting their, sharing the revenues to cities, they want to find another source of funding, and so we kind of get stuck in this. One of the things from Doug Levy, our lobbyist today, was to really have the mayors of various cities, especially the South County cities, call individually or contact our legislators individually to say, let's at least get a hearing on this because this is an important issue. The one thing that we've had some good traction on is the Public Works Trust Fund, or the Public Works Assistance Account. If you remember, one of the things that happened last year was they shifted the money from that to the operating budget. And while Renton specifically was not impacted because we didn't have any projects that we were relying on this low interest funding, from a long-term infrastructure investment, and definitely for other cities, this is a big impact. So far there's a couple of bills that are looking at what these options could be, and we may have more luck. There is a House Bill 2244 that is looking at putting an end to this diversion. So we'll keep monitoring that and see how that goes. The other good news, we had a really wonderful meeting with Representative Pettigrew from Renton, and he is very interested in finding ways to do some additional funding for gangs intervention and outreach and prevention. So one of the things that he was looking at is there is a little additional unspent funding with the Department of Corrections. And so he's trying to see if he can get an operating proviso so that that budget could be used for programs like Alive and Free or similar models, so that they can be targeted towards this area. So again, he specifically had us talk to us about with this meeting. In a previous meeting with Jay, he went through a lot of details of the program and has this as his own top priority. So hopefully this will be good for Renton and for the South County cities. The other one, public safety, and we've been talking about this a lot, is looking at, again, distribution of dollars from the marijuana sales. While most of that, while most of the budget is already set aside, there is a 20% of the overall that is, could be allocated to cities. And again, we're making a really strong case saying we need to have these dollars at the local level. And in addition to substantiate our case, there's a memo that came out from the feds, from the Attorney General's office, that has a list of 8 points that at the local level we have to manage in order to ensure that marijuana, there's safety, it's not sold to children, and there's all that, and for that we need the funding. But again, this is running into areas where first of all, there's a lot of different bills that are being proposed on this. The strongest one in the House is the the Condotta bill from Representative Carrie Condotta from the Wenatchee area. But none of them are going anywhere close to the amounts that we were hoping that we could ask for. If you remember initially when we had the model for liquor taxing, it was a 50% that the cities could get. And at best, some of these bills are giving what equates to about a 10% or a one-time contribution to cities. So, we're still trying to get this on their screen and horizon and saying this is really important to us. The AWC cities really came out full force to make a really loud case for this is one of the key priorities. There were a couple of other bills related to marijuana which were a little disturbing. Two of them were saying that cities cannot have the authority for zoning or in any way preventing, having any regulations, local regulations. But it seems like these bills are not going to go any further, but we're watching them. Because again, for us, it's very critical that we are able to make the regulations that, meet the safety standards of our community. So those are kind of the big issues that we had as part of our legislative update and priorities, and the ones that we really made a strong case for. As you know, every day there's, it's a constant change. There's new bills being introduced, new bills moving out of committees, House and Senate, each one coming up with different things. There's a few there that, were not necessarily ones that we had top on our list, but which we are watching or, we have positions on. I'll just go through some of these in terms of fiscal and budget impacts. There is a Senate Bill 6322 that would give sales tax exemption for telecommunications machinery and equipment. This would be hugely costly, so this is not something that we would support. And from Doug Levy's email, it seems like they understand that this exemption is not something we want to do. There have been a couple of bills, both House and Senate, to simplify taxation and sales tax of amusement and recreation programs, and we got support from our community services staff, and so this should make things easier. So we're monitoring these, and hopefully these will work out in to our best advantage. Another bill of concern, this relates to employees, to the vacation accrual of part-time employees, where they have different parameters in terms of how many hours as well as how long they work. This would have an impact for our seasonal and part-time employees. So again, we're watching the bill to see what the exact language is, how it will impact us, and what our stand is. Going forward to, I did talk to you about the Public Works Assistance Fund. There's a whole lot of bills, especially today, that we were looking at related to flood control and stormwater, and looking at different pots of funds or even bonds that could be used for some of these projects. Interestingly, one of them, which was up for hearing, and Greg and his staff looked at it, looked good on the surface, but when you looked into it, it was actually taking money from the Public Works Assistance Fund. So, we're monitoring these to see where they go. Another one that we're kind of, not very excited about, but, again, Renton has a good place, is related to impact fees. It looks as if there is going to be a lot of traction for a bill that will defer impact fees. And when I say Renton, it's a school district that's going to be impacted most, because we already have a deferral program. It's just unfortunate that this type of a bill has got the support it has. I understand that Representative Larry Springer, who's usually a pro-city person, is one of the prime sponsors of this bill.
May I interrupt?
Mr. Corman?
Yep. So just to clarify, so the deferral program would be that people could withhold the fee until the
Until the
home
time
gets
of
sold, or
until the time of sales.
yeah.
So that's what, instead of upfront when they apply for
Right.
the permit. So it would obviously be a benefit to the builders, and but it delays the process.
Right.
So.
Yep,
Jay,
understand.
Didn't we have a bill like this last session and the governor vetoed it?
We did, yes. That's right. Both houses passed it. The governor, this is the one bill the governor vetoed last year, and then I hoped that there'd be some way to work something out. We didn't have any compromise that was worked out. That I don't even know that we were aware of any discussions that went on, but nevertheless, there wasn't anything. So this is virtually the same bill going back.
Yeah, I was just verifying I
Yeah.
understood what it was.
And in fact, Renton played a big role in getting the governor's veto, because at that time we did directly approach Dr. Huschel, and she understood the impact of this.
Right.
So, but it's coming back, and it
Okay.
looks like it's, it might pass this time.
Yeah.
Chip is here. I don't know if we want to talk about the impacts. My understanding, Chip, is that it's a, for one thing, a lot of the cost of infrastructure come at the time you put in the streets and utilities and that. So it could be sometimes years before you actually get the ultimate development or house sales. But I'll speak to that.
It's, here, let me just borrow that pretty. Chip Vincent for the record, council members. It's a very challenging bill for a number of reasons. First and foremost, we have, at the local level, when you're implementing state law, it's better if we have all the tools and the policy options available to us. I will share with you, when we updated our impact fees 2 years ago, after not updating them for 18 years, it was really beneficial for us to have the opportunity to put on the table with the builders the option of deferring the collection of those fees as a way to get them to support raising the fees. So I use that as an example. Anytime we can keep the tools locally without having the state dictate to us when and how we collect fees is better for us, especially when it comes to infrastructure issues. When it comes to infrastructure issues, we are falling so short of meeting our mark with respect to fire, roads, parks, and schools, that any other limitation is a challenge for us. And those are kind of philosophical issues over here. There's a practical side to this as well for us, because even though we have the deferral option available, the vast majority of our builders and developers choose not to use it. They simply, at the time of building permit issuance, they go ahead and pay it. It'd be better if it was an option. The way this law is written, it's going to be a requirement for the city. And so we're going to have to defer something where somebody may not want to anyway, because the vast majority today, even with our deferral program in place, that doesn't deal with schools, it deals with fire, roads, and parks, the vast majority don't exercise that. So there's a number of issues and challenges.
Okay.
For us, it frankly adds another layer of complexity, and I guess the last piece I'll say, it starts to pass the burden of responsibility onto the home buyer, and not being encumbered in the overall costs of the project itself. So there's some really subtle things that are going on here, but frankly, we're open to the idea. When we did our deferral program, we asked Renton School District if they wanted to be part of it, and they said, no, we need that money as early in the process as possible. For them, that money is used principally for portables. It's bridge money that bridges the time those children are in the school until they can actually have a capital program that actually creates a school. So earlier is better for them, and so that's why we chose not to do it.
Well, I'll just say I appreciate the amount of thought you put into that. I mean, it seems like you really looked at that issue. And that last point that you made, I think it's really important. I hope that that no matter what happens, even if that's deferred, that it doesn't end up as a surprise closing cost for the buyer of the property.
We'll see how this bill works out. This is one of the issues that's under debate right now, what that looks like. Whether or not a lien is filed on the property and how that all works. But
yeah, I mean, I would really oppose that if that's what happens. So thank you for being vigilant about that. That would not be right at all.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Taylor.
on the flip side, Chip, can you tell me the developers who are choosing to not go with the deferral, what is their reasoning for that?
It's interesting because frankly, I thought more of them would defer than are, simply because the carrying costs are so large when they have development. But the reality is they have fairly narrow windows they're working within anyway. And the fact that they're just including it within the overall development package as part of their loan. So it's like punch list. They're just getting it out of the way and moving on. That's my assessment. I will talk to some of the builders to find out. We haven't teased this out. We've just been looking at some of the numbers and frankly just surprised more of them aren't exercising the use of the program, that it's available, but we'll talk to them and find out.
And the reason that I'm curious about that is because I'm aware that the Master Builders Association is for the deferrals. And they've come to us on occasion, many occasion, wanting to lobbying for the deferral for the benefit of the builders. So
Yeah.
it just strikes me as odd that there are builders that are not taking advantage of a voluntary option that they have at the time
Yeah.
of that they are applying for their permits.
Well, let me add to that something that might shed a little bit more light on it. The ones that are typically the smaller builders, and right now
The
within
ones
this,
that are taking advantage?
yes, are smaller builders. And for the large builders that we have currently developing homes in the city, whether it's Quadrant, Henley Homes, D.R. Horton, Toth Brothers, I mean, we have some really, really big national brand developers, and frankly, for them, it's part of the cost of doing business. So if you're a very large corporation like D.R. Horton, publicly traded, biggest home builder in America today, that's building up in the East Renton Plateau, 2 projects, Liberty Gardens and Kavala, that's just the cost of doing business for them. They'll just include that as part of their overall, because they have such deep pockets, they can do that.
Pretty?
Thank you. I had told Chip, I said, we're going to have a discussion on this, so he was well prepared. There's a couple other bills related to GMA and housing, and one that came up today was related to annexation, to basically extend the sunset date of sales tax credit. King County has been supporting this. At this point, we don't really have any large-scale annexations that we expect. So, we've been, again, watching it, but we, haven't testified or done a specific rollout for that. And apparently, the indication is that this is not likely to move out of the House Local Government Committee. Because again, back to the same story of looking at where can they hold revenues for, K-12 education. A few other bills, Council President Don Person had brought to our attention a couple of bills related to how long the evidence for DNA would be held. So we've, got these on our radar screen to see, what the details of the bills would be, what the impact would be, and to monitor it and, testify or have our position accordingly. Similarly, a bill to have liquor board members, officers have law enforcement status. So Chief Milosevic has looked into that, and we're monitoring to see, again, what that means. And obviously, if they have the same level of training as police officers, it's a different story. But we're looking to see where that bill goes. And again, there's several bills that are set for hearing next week on DUI. And for, again, tougher sentences, consecutive sentences, charging for prior offenses. So we're looking to see what those are, and, probably we'll have support for some of those bills. Another one, talking quality of life in general, we have to thank Zanetta from our city attorney's office, because she helped write a bill where boat launch facilities would get immunity from any accidents or liability for any accidents that was without their control. So she helped draft some of the language for that. And there's a couple of bills out there. There's one specific to commercial recovery of cost for public records requests. And this is this had a hearing today at 3:30. We'll find out tomorrow what happened, or how it went. I think that's kind of the general list of what's happening. By tomorrow, I may have a different story to tell, but any questions, any other thoughts?
I wanted to just point out one bill, Council. There was a hearing today on an annexation bill, a couple annexation bills, but one would extend the deadline for submitting an application for large annexations to be eligible for the sales tax credit. We did not testify on that bill or nor indicate support. We're just watching that bill. King County is pushing that mostly, I think, because of the administration's positions in listening to the council and not really sensing support for large annexations. I mean, we tried Fairwood and that vote was rejected, and we tried West Hill and that was rejected. So the last time we talked about this, there wasn't a lot of support to try to go out there and do anything again. So we're watching, but not taking an active role in supporting this legislation. The current law would be that at the end of 2015, the opportunity to apply for the sales tax credit for large annexation would expire. This would move that out 2 years. So I just want to make sure you were aware of that right now our position is we're just watching, we're not doing anything.
Good.
Any questions for Preeti? I have one for you, Preeti.
Okay.
Actually, this might be a Preeti or Jay question. Jay remembers when we met with Representative Gregerson, she'd mentioned the bill on tourism and the tourism tax. Have we heard anything more about that?
I know I mentioned it to our lobbyist. I'm trying to see if my notes, if I have anything. If not, we'll get back to you.
We'll follow up on that.
And then the other question I had when we were talking about deferrals, it would seem that the realtors would be at odds with the master builders if the cost were going to be shifted to the buyer.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to find out where the realtors are on the deferral bill.
I don't know if they put up a very strong support or, a front last time when this came up. I know the master builders were there and they had the support, and that's why it passed and had to be vetoed. So I'm not sure if the realtors had a strong contingent last time. So.
Mr. Corman?
If I may. Yeah, I think this will, I guess without looking at what the proposal is, it would depend a lot on, and I'm trying to remember what you said, if it's a time of sale of the house versus time of, say, issuing the building permit.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what the language is looking like right now.
And is it looking like it's the time of sale, or?
Yes.
Time of sale instead of time of permit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that does seem like first-time home buyers or whatever are gonna be really
that's
shocked.
Exactly. I'm thinking about that sticker shock.
Yeah.
If I think the bill, you mentioned the bill Mia Gregerson had, this may be a different one. There's at least, I know one bill is out there that it's attempting to extend the current parameters around which the hotel motel tax is distributed in the county. So as you recall, a lot of that way back when went for Kingdom construction. And then when Seiko Field was built, there was an extension of the hotel motel tax to support the construction of Seiko Field. And that, we're now moving far enough along. I believe some of this is to try to set those same parameters and extend some of that debt service allowance for the hotel motel tax to be used for debt service allowance. The question that some cities are having is, since several of us have our own marketing programs, would now be a good time for us to try to suggest that not all of that, those dollars that were previously allocated for debt service or bonding continue to be allocated there, and should they not come back to cities? So we'll follow up to see. I think that was the Gregerson bill. But
Yeah, that was exactly. I just didn't know if we'd had an update on that bill or not.
Follow up.
Any other questions for Preeti? All right, I told you it would be done at 6:30. I'm gonna adjourn this committee to home meeting. See you guys at 7.
Thank you.